Hambini fans, and welcome to another episode of Hambini Reams. In today's episode, we've got the ride review, or well, 500, 600 miles in, of my new cheap bike, which was the Lightcarbon LCR 17D. Now, the conspiracy theorists amongst you will probably realise that 17 is 71 backwards. I'll leave that one with you. So this bike was bought by me at the Lightcarbon stand at Eurobike. I placed the order and it came, and you can see in a previous video exactly how I bought it. And the key parameter from this bike and the build of it is the specification I asked for. So I asked for a slightly higher grade of QA, QC, and also the materials involved. It cost slightly more than standard offering, but I thought it'd be worthwhile doing. Built the bike up with Shimano Di2. It's got 105 on there. The wheels are 9 velo. I've also got a set of Pro X carbon wheels that I'll show in another video later on. The wheels have been pretty much fantastic. They're a real go-to. I would have no hesitations in getting them at all. The tyres are crap. They are Maxxis high road tyres. They're okay to get you from A to B, but anything more than that, forget it. And the rest of it is as I bought it. In hindsight, there are a few things I would have probably done differently. The first is I would have just got a plain black frame without the graphics on it. And the other is, and it's a bit more of a pain in the rear end, is I ended up getting handlebars that were quite wide, because since I started not being natty, my shoulders and things have gotten a little bit wider. I wish I'd gotten one with a slightly longer stem and probably slightly narrower as well. I thought a wider handlebar would be more comfortable. I'm not really so much interested in the aero these days, but the handling is a bit duller. So if you have a slightly narrower set of handlebars and a longer stem, you gain some in the damping, but also you don't have to move the bar as much to gain the same amount of steering movement. At the back, we've got the Maxxis high road tyres. They're crap, avoid them. They're 28s, so I'm not really too much of a stickler for comfort and all that, but each their own. The wheels are fantastic. So the 9 velo wheels, without a doubt, absolutely top notch. Bladed spokes, and then I've started using mineral oil on the chain. That's because some of the guys from Reynolds, who invented the chain, that's what they use, and that's what I've started using as well. Admittedly, I haven't had that many miles on it, but if you jet wash it, mineral oil seems to work quite well. I know there's a load of waxes out there, but there we go. The inner tubes are Ride Now. Again, it's something else I would recommend. There's no real issues with that. Moving towards the front of the bike. So its front mech is 105. We're just going to the rear mech. Everything these days, I think, is the long cage type. 105, the jury's out as to whether Shimano have sorted out their problems yet or not, but we'll see. It just works. It's not really had any issues at all. Yeah, and you see a bit of a few marks and things from it, and I've got the tail light, which is the Phoenix tail light, so that's mandatory if you're riding in certain competitions and things like that. This is the graphics, and this is probably something that I'm not that keen on, but each to their own. I think if they got rid of that or made it a little bit more discreet, it'd maybe look a bit better. Front wheel is again 9 velo. No issues with that. So it's a blind hole for the through axle. It's designed to make it more aerodynamic. I think the difference is probably 3/10 of a diddly squat. And then up to the handlebars. Now the handlebar routing on this bike is ace. It was dead easy to build. This is without doubt the easiest bike I've ever built, because everything, the fit, finish, everything is so easy. Just routing the handlebar, the hose through the handlebars, it just didn't snag anywhere, it just went straight through. And it's really neat the way they've incorporated that in there. And this is also keyed, which is unusual. One thing that I'm not so keen on is this handlebar tape. So I went to a place called Pedal, which is in Venlo, so it's on the Dutch-German border. So that's where I've ridden this bike mostly, to get some handlebar tape. And I think they had my pants down because this stuff's garbage. So 45 euros it cost for that. So for them to put it on, because I didn't have any on me. And yeah, I honestly think that I was expecting better quality than this for 45 euros, but there you go. I'm not even sure what brand it is. It doesn't say on the end caps. If anyone knows, then do let me know. And then, yeah, handlebars, brakes, everything just works. So if you need to adjust the handlebars up and down, you can just pop one of these out. So you can loosen this top cap, loosen that a little bit, lift it ever so slightly, and these will just pop out, which is quite a good thing. It means you don't have to disassemble the whole thing to get the spacers out. This is the Ritchie style seat mount. A lot of people, a handful of people emailed in asking if I'd had problems with this on this bike, and I haven't. I've seen this in a few other places. So Windspace use them, I can use them, a lot of the Chinese bikes use them, and they were worried about slippage and stuff like that. I mean, obviously I haven't had it on for that long, and I'm not particularly heavy, although I have gained a little bit of weight. But yeah, no issues with that. The seat mount, or seat post clamp, goes in through here. Now, I guess if you were going to be picky, you'd probably want to have a little plug over that. This one didn't come with one, but I don't think it's the end of the world. It doesn't slip. On the inside of there is like a sandy, gritty piece of tape, so it does grip very well. If not, on bikes where I've had an issue, I guess the best thing to do is, first of all, take off the clear coat, because it is hard, so it probably goes against what you'd think, and then use a bit of a Hylamar blue and carbon paste, and that tends to work quite well in my experience. So the guy from, I think it was Sedis, not Reynolds, gave me some stuff to put on the cassette, which is actually ceramic, and it's what they use on their pulleys for industrial applications, or sprockets, sorry, for industrial applications. So I've put that on here. It's amazing, because when you put it on, it's like almost feels like Teflon, but when you get the hose on it, the dirt just comes straight off. I don't know what is in it, but it is really quite good. So I'm going to use more of that stuff going forward. Possibly is some ceramic with some nano materials or God knows what else. This is where, I had a couple more questions around the mounting or gears for gears. I've only used electronic on here. I don't know if this frame will even take mechanical shifting. My thought is probably not, but do stand corrected if someone wants to correct me on that. I guess the only thing that, from a mechanical perspective, where I'd say was slightly annoying is here. So where the wire comes in for the Di2, it's not very well held, so it's flapping a bit. I mean, it's nowhere near the tyre. It might look like it's near the tyre, but it's nowhere near it, but it's not very well held. I think they should have brought the hole a bit higher. Don't know if that was doable or not, but that's me being critical. The bottom bracket is mine, so it's a T4768. It's just a doddle to fit, because they've already faced it, so you can just literally screw it on, and that's that. The rest of it, it's just an uneventful bike. That's the best way I can describe it. Everything just works. So what's it like to ride? Well, out riding along, it just rides like any other bike. I'd be surprised if you'd be able to tell the difference just riding along. Where it becomes a bit different, and that's more down to the geometry rather than the actual bike, is in the steering. Because of the length of the stem, the width of the handlebars, and the angle, that influences how the ride characteristics of the bike are. So you can either have it slightly nimble or slightly damped. Now, if you were to shorten the stem up to almost nothing, I don't know, 30 mil, something like that, you'd have a very nimble bike. In this case, it's sort of halfway in between. The up and down motion of the bike, so the vertical oscillation of the bike, is largely influenced by the tyres and the wheels. Wheels have got carbon spokes in them, so that bit is quite stiff. But the tyre, you can meddle around with the tyre pressure, and then that can affect your handling quite considerably, or affect the ride quality quite considerably. I don't really care so much for having wide tyres or not. I'll just get on the bike and just ride it. I haven't had any real problems with this bike. I built it up, rolled it out of here. It's been around the Netherlands, around a bit of the UK, Germany, and also been in a wind tunnel. This is, I think, probably a defining moment because the OEM has brought out a product that I won't say is game-changing, but it's game-changing for the price point. So if you were to take the badges off this and then put a Cannondale next to it, I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference. I don't think you would. And the modern Cannondale is actually quite good as well. In terms of what else you could buy, well, you could go and get an Icon, a Trifox wind space. Obviously the wind space is considerably more expensive now. It's almost double the price. But if you just want a bike to get around and you want to do it, fairly hassle-free, this is probably it. It's probably not going to be enjoyed by bike shops because any Tom, Dick or Harry could build this. This is, without doubt, the easiest bike I've ever built. Even compared to the Time Skylon, this is easier. All the fittings are there, all the little tip bits are there. Whereas on the Skylon, some of the frame covers that if you're not using cable shifting, they don't come with it. You have to go and buy those extra. The Di2 battery holder on a Time is extra. All of that is extra. On this, it just comes with it. Also, it uses standard parts. So the headsets are standard MH series bearings. And the bottom bracket is also T4768. So you are much less likely to round it and trash it than some other brand. Lightcarbon, a few hundred miles later, by Hambini, age 5. The pen is working. Just a quick recap. So when I bought this frame, I was at Eurobike and the guy at the Lightcarbon stand, he flashed all this kind of information up in front of me. And it is effectively a matrix for how companies buy OEM type frames. So they Lightcarbon had 3 different kind of tiers. So Z11, Z7 and Z3. Z3 is the best grade you can get, and the frame that I've got is almost Z3 in everything apart from the last 2 things at the bottom, which is a manual, it didn't come with one, and the Mondi style bike box, it didn't come with that either. You do have to pay extra for the Z3, and when it comes down to the basement cost, it is 4 times the Z11, and if you read through the quality control they do and the difference in manufacturing methods, you can probably see why. This build ended up being 2,700 quid or $3,059. That breaks down to 800 quid for the frame, $960 conversion. That comes with the seat post and the handlebar and stem. And to be honest, having had this bike for a while now, just the handlebar and stem alone, I would get them just for another bike. I mean, they're $165 delivered, and I would say they are one of the best ones that I've seen. Now, a few videos ago, I did crush a set of handlebars, some well-known handlebars and some unknown Chinese OEM handlebars, and the unknown bars did considerably better. They were a different material, but they were considerably cheaper. The 105 Di2, that's just a kind of cost from the marketplace. That's where we go with that. Now this thing I got wrong in the last video. I said there were 9 Velo CD55 wheels. They're not. They're CD58 version 2. and they are probably the most expensive. Well, they are the most expensive expense on the bike, but I don't regret it at all because they've been absolutely bulletproof. And on my Patreon, there's quite a few people who have the 9 Velo wheels, and when they were objectively tested, they kind of blitzed everybody else. Old seat and old pedals, yeah, and there's the cost. Right, this is a topic that comes up quite frequently, which is what happens if a random punter buys a bike and not Hambini? Well, I've got 2 videos here, so let me just run them. So this is a random punter called SJ. I don't know who it is at all, but he bought a frame shortly after I bought my frame. Whether he bought it on the back of that review or not, I don't know. But this is playback from the insides of his frame, and they look pretty much the same as mine. They're basically a very, very high quality. There's no ripples, no ridges, none of that anywhere, no layer shifting. It's just very, very clean. So that is one example. There are a few other examples. People on my Patreon have bought quite a few of these frames, and the general feedback has been very good. If I just pause it there, if you take a look at that riv nut, you know, judging a frame by the quality of the riv nut is probably a slightly crappy thing to do, but if you see a cheap frame and the quality of the riv nut versus this, the difference is like night and day. Now this guy is, I think his name Tiago Santos. He came along in a load of the comments on the last video. I guess, you know, pretty upset. He'd bought a Lightcarbon frame. I watched this a few times, and I'll be honest, I didn't completely understand all of it. But there's a few things that kind of like stand out. So when I bought my frame, I had to pay extra. I think it was like $80 or $100 extra. His frame was $712. Mine was just shy of 800 quid. So I've obviously paid more for it, and I suspect that might be something to do with the QA/QC, but it's not really clear because when he bought his frame, he didn't ask for a Z3, he just asked for a normal one. Looking at the picture of his frame that you can see on the shot, the only thing I really notice is the frame colour is quite shiny, and you know, Lightcarbon do supply some of the OEMs, let's say, and that one looks like a different grade of frame to me, but there you go. But having said that, what he saw inside his frame is not good at all. So the cavities and the voids and things like that aren't great. So, you know, I'm not knocking him for what he's saying. He's you know, rightfully brought it up. Whether he's bought the same spec frame as me, that's what I would question, because I've obviously paid extra for the Z3, but I don't know if he has. My gut feeling is he probably hasn't, but there you go. So what else could you buy? So this is the Mapdeck website, and he is a look dealer, so that's what he will try and go for. Just the frame alone is 785 without anything, so no handlebars, no seat post, all of that good stuff. It's 2,490 quid. Now, if I had the choice between the Lightcarbon and the look 785, and money was off the table, I would get the Lightcarbon, because A, you get more of it, and B, I actually think it is better made than the look. Yeah, the paint job and the look brand name is great, but it isn't what it used to be. I think a better comparison would be the look 7955 Blade RS, because it's very similar spec-wise. So you get the handlebars, you get the stem, you get the seat post, so it's almost a like for like. But then the cost skyrockets, so it's like 5,390 quid. Another option, so for a complete built bike, is this one. So the Canyon Ultimate CF SL7 Di2. So that's got 105 Di2. I don't think it's completely 105 because the brake rotors don't look like 105. But it comes with a fairly cheapish Shimano wheel set. But the rest of it, you know, you could almost say is spec for spec, looks very similar. The seat post is like a square cut off job, fairly boxy framing. The fork looks very similar in profile. But then again, this is it. This is the cost. It's £4,400. 14. How much is that? 1,700 quid, I think. If I worked that out wrong, I don't know. More than the other one. And again, if you took the badge away, I would get the Lightcarbon because I think it's objectively better made. I mean, there's been so many canyons on this show, it's just ridiculous. Now, what are the alternatives from China? Well, you could always go for the usual suspects, the Winspaces of the world or the Icans of the world. Winspace is considerably more expensive now, and if you have a look at my other video on the Winspace SLC3, you'll see that wasn't quite so straightforward either. I was watching Trace Fellow the other day, and he brought up his OG Evkin frame. Now, he described it as immaculate. Now, I think on the whole, it probably was pretty good, but the area around the headset, I didn't really agree with his comments. I thought they were, I thought it was a bit scabby, if I'm honest. Now, he did, really well, and he posted a picture on his Imgur account or whatever it is, and this is a shot from the insides of it, and I'm just going to point out fairly obvious things to me. First of all, you can see the bearing in the background. So the bearing is sitting, and this is the headset, and this is the bearing is sitting in it. Now, if you follow this sort of silver thing round, as you can see, it's not round at all. Around here, this looks like something called Devcon, which is epoxy. It's a trade name. I'm not sure who even makes it, but everyone just refers to it as Devcon because it has a very particular colour, and that's kind of like Devcon colour. So it's not regular. Around here, I don't know if it'll show up that well on YouTube, but there's lines around here. It looks like it's been filed with a rasp. Not particularly cleanly. And then all the way around here, this looks like a bridge where this frame may have had a hole in this area, and then it's been bonded over, and then that bridge has been put in as an afterthought. So I'm not saying the frame left with a huge gaping hole there. I said the original mould probably didn't have anything there, and then they put that in afterwards. Is it a showstopper? I don't think so at all. Is Luke going to face plant the floor because of this? I don't think so. But, when previously I used to do a load more insurance claims, one of the big things that, we used to screw up was headsets and steering failures. Right, just the tidbits, the good. Right, I can't emphasize enough how easy it was to build. That you just push the cables and the Di2 wires, everything. It was just so easy. And looking at that guy's frame, SJ, that I put up, it's quite, consistently very clean on the inside. It just makes life dead easy to route. The handlebars especially were an absolute piece of cake. You could just push the hydraulic line through, and out it came. Previously, I used to use welding wire and all sorts, but it just came along, because quite often you're pushing along and then it stops and you keep pushing and you can feel it bending inside, and then it pings, and then you go onto the next ridge and stuff like that. It was none of that. It was just dead easy to put together, and none of the filing, none of that. I think the biggest thing I had to do was I had to get two, I think they're M5 cap heads, because the Shimano original brake caliper heads screws were too long. It rides perfectly and it just works. I can't say much more than that. The badge, that's not great. The paint job, and I should have bought narrower bars. Right, that brings us to the end of this video. If you did enjoy it, remember to smash that like button. If you didn't, go screw yourself. And as always, keep banging your hairdresser.